Are you facing Goliath right now? I know that some of you right now are facing what seem like impossible circumstances. You may have lost your job. You may have huge financial problems. Your marriage may be in trouble. You may have health issues, and you just don't know what to do. Well, there's two ways that you can respond to these kinds of circumstances, and they're really well illustrated by the story of David and Goliath. Now, most of us respond to overwhelming, intimidating circumstances just like the Israelite army did. They were overwhelmed. They were paralyzed by fear. Their faith melted away, and they just curled up into the fetal position and believed all the lies that Satan wanted them to believe, that it was hopeless, they were defeated, and God had abandoned them. But there's a second option. Look at how David handled that. When he came onto the scene, he saw what the risks were. He was very realistic. He knew why they were afraid. But the difference was that David knew God better than the army did. You see, David had a track record of faith. He had watched God's faithfulness. He saw how God had protected him and answered his prayers. He knew God better, so he was prepared to meet Goliath. And David had a very simple strategy. He reminded himself of God's faithfulness in the past, and if God was faithful then, he could be depended on to be faithful in that particular crisis. He declared God's will into the circumstances, and he acted in faith, and he watched the giant fall. So what should we do when we're facing insurmountable circumstances that seem overwhelming? 1, get to know God better. Walk with him, talk with him, get to know his heart, learn to hear his voice. Remind yourself of God's faithfulness in the past. Remind yourselves of all the times he did answer your prayers, he did intervene, and remind yourself that he is faithful to help you today. Then declare God's will into the circumstances. Remind yourself of his promises to you, then act in faith. And remember that Satan is intimidated by any Christian who's walking in his gifts and callings and anointings. He runs when you come in faith. So to live a transformed life, you need to know how to face the Goliaths in your life and conquer them. Now I want to hear from you. How have you faced the Goliath in your life, and what happened? Tell us what happened, because we want to be encouraged by your story. Just leave your comments in the box below. And if this is your first visit here, you need to get my free email newsletter and my self-assessment guide that comes with it. And to do that, just complete the subscription form, and you know where that is. It's always right there. And I'll talk to you again next week, but this week, remind yourself of God's faithfulness so you're prepared to face Goliath.